Justin, hello and welcome to the show. So excited to have you today and thrilled for our conversation.
Yeah, Rose, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure meeting you and thanks again.
Absolutely. We have so much to cover in our conversation today. To get started, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself? What was your background and what does your career journey look like before you started quantum senses? Um, And yeah, if you could tell us a bit about that. And also, when you finally did decide to venture into entrepreneurship, what was the inspiration behind quantum senses?
Yeah, sure. I'm a Seat Pleasant, Maryland native. I grew up in Prince George's County, on the East Coast. And after, high school, I attended college at Tuskegee University in Alabama. There, I studied aerospace science engineering. And once I, graduated, I then transitioned to Florida, where I started my career as an engineer working for the Air Force Research Lab. So I was developing weapon systems, different munitions, integrating different weapons and munitions and different fuses with different aircraft platforms like the F-16s, F-35s, the drone Reapers and MQ-9s, and then did, a little bit of, foreign military sales work where I was working with, coalition partners and international allies. And then, I eventually had the opportunity to transition and move back home, to Prince George's County, Maryland. And so now, I'm working at the Pentagon, working with the Space Force. And so, that career has been rewarding. It's, blessed me with the opportunity to work some cool technology and feel different capabilities to, like they say, the war fighters. And, I'm just thankful for that. But the transition to quantum senses, was completely derived, from a prayer, asking God for, just financial, independence. And
Mhm.
so, working with the government, there are certain restrictions, there are different rules. You got to come into work on this at this time. You gotta come in at 8 o'clock. You got to leave at this time. And I was really looking for, independence so I could spend more time with my family and do things that I really enjoyed. And after I prayed, God, He placed it on my heart to start this company, Quantum Senses. And that was back in 2021. And we've been, rolling ever since.
That's amazing. And that's great. So, in pursuit of financial freedom and lifestyle freedom, you eventually came to build what today is quantum senses. That's so exciting. And could you share a bit about? So, you have a product called the Earcoustic, right? Helping individuals with hearing disabilities. Could you
Mhm.
explain a little bit about that for someone
Yeah,
who's
sure.
not familiar with the
So
product?
yeah, I'd rather show you rather than tell you. So
Oh, that's
this is
great.
our product, like Earcoustic headphones. And so, we have an assistive technology. It's a non-electronic headphone that helps improve hearing for those with mild to moderate hearing loss. So, if you have a family member that can't afford hearing aids, or a hearing aid is just overly medicating, what their problem and issue is, we now have a $20 solution, that can help people. And so the concept was derived from my neighbor. His wife will complain about the TV being too loud, and he was like, "Man, she keeps getting on me. Like I had a TV up too loud, and she's telling me to turn the TV down." It's like we all have family members or somebody like that. But,
Mhm.
he had, obviously a fixed income. He was a Vietnam veteran, and obviously he can't afford, a $3,000 to $5,000 hearing aid, let alone, $200 to $300 extra out of his budget. And so, he said, "Man, when I cut my hand over my ear, that really helps." And so now we've got ear acoustics. And so, yeah, it's been a great journey. And we're in over, 25 states across the country. We even have sound meditation clients, and, just doing some amazing things, in the health and wellness space.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. And that's amazing, right? You identified a problem that someone was having and you just went ahead and built a solution, making that assistive technology more accessible, right, to
Hmm.
more people. So that's fantastic. And I want to talk a bit about how you went from idea to an actual product. What is the key to successfully, seeing an issue that you want to solve, seeing a big challenge that you want to solve, and moving from idea to execution when you're building a product for something as complex and impactful as health technology, assistive technology?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the biggest things, to me is just like consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it takes time, throughout that process. You may have an idea and you may have it on paper, but obviously, you got to start with some type of engineering drawing. Then start working with the manufacturer to kind of prototype, the concept. Then, obviously you got to have, your lawyers and your patent attorneys involved, to protect your intellectual property, whether it's through, a trademark of your name, your logo, or a patent, a functional patent or uh, I mean, basically, you got to protect your IP, and I mean, then from there, you start doing customer discovery. So you got to start talking to people and say, hey, do you guys like this? Do you not like it? What would you change? Would you use this? How much would you pay for it? What would you not pay for it? Is it too much? Is it too cheap? And then you got to, start working with manufacturers to say, hey, now we've gotten all these data points. We've done scientific research and studies. Now we want to produce, like 1,000 of these things. So I mean, so it's definitely, not an overnight process, but I would say consistency and, being consistent, that's the one thing that's going to get you from, something proof of concept in your mind to actually having, something tangible in hand that actually helps people.
Absolutely. Yes. And I want to translate back and really make sure for the person listening to our conversation today, they really understood the process. So, first, it's a matter of design, right? Really just getting an idea of the product you want to create. And then it's finding a manufacturer, working with engineers to really develop a prototype, as you said. And then it's a matter of protecting intellectual property. And I'd love if you could just dive a little deeper there for a second, because a lot of our audience today are students, right? And if they're building, if they have plans to build their own startup, it's going to be their first time. So, what does everyone listening to our conversation today need to know about intellectual property, and what does that mean for them?
Yeah. So, I mean, protecting your intellectual property is just making sure, nobody can like hijack, your ideas,
Mm-hmm.
whether, it's, an engineering concept, for a product, whether it's, your name, your brand, you want to protect your logo, protect your brand. And I mean, there has to be, we have to just educate people on the clear distinctions of the various ways to protect your IP. So you may have a copyright, if you are, if you have like a piece of literature, like a script
Mm-hmm.
or like a poem or like a song, you have to copyright that. That's not the same as having a trademark. A trademark is, you have a certain brand, you see the like E right like here. That's a trademark because it's a logo, the name, that's a trademark like Nike and the swoosh, that's their trademark. So that's different from a copyright, where you have a song that you've written. And then you have patents. You have, like a utility patent, and then there's different aspects of, the patent. But a patent is usually for a certain type of product. So, you have to, know that there's a distinction between a copyright, a trademark, a patent. And then there are different levels of different patents as well. But it's just a mechanism, that's utilized to protect, your information and the cool and creative ideas, that people come up with. So nobody can kind of hijack you and try to steal your concept and say, hey, well, I came up with the first. Is like, no, no, no. Like,
Yeah.
here's my paperwork, so So yeah, it's just another way to just protect yourself and your business.
That's great. Yes. And thank you for really emphasizing the process there, what that looks like and the different options to our audience today. Because for many students, they might just go from idea to testing right away, putting their product out there, trying to get feedback. And so it's important to also consider, what steps happen in between to make sure that, you have ownership and you have control over your product. And you're just able to continue to build and develop your idea from there without worrying about having to worry about any infringements or anything like
Yeah.
any trouble down the road. So that's great. Thank you so much. And in this process of developing your prototype and then going through and making sure you're protecting your intellectual property, and then later, as you mentioned, going out and testing the product, getting market feedback, finding your target audience. Were there any challenges or obstacles that you faced early on when developing the ear acoustic and just building quantum senses?
Yeah, like for sure. I mean, it's like I say, like consistency and perseverance because like when you have, your first prototype, it's never gonna come out as pretty and as beautiful, as you may want it to. And sometimes it can be discouraging because you say, "Oh man, well this is great. I finally got something in my hand from my ideas." And then you talk to somebody about it and you say, "Hey, like what do you think?" They're like, man, that thing looks like a piece of crap. You're like, oh no, like my baby is ugly. And so, but you got to be able to take the constructive criticism and, continue to make modifications and changes, to something that people actually, gravitate towards and that it captivates, their attention. So, there's definitely some adversity. There was one of the like earlier prototypes that we I had, purchased. The company, they shipped one of the companies, they shipped it, from overseas. And one of my business partners, he had a presentation in front of like this large audience. And my business partner, when he opened the headphone like out of the packaging, it's like the headphone, it like completely like fell apart. And he had like all
Oh
these different
no.
parts in his hand. And he was like, oh, dude, I cannot like share this with these people because it's just going to be a catastrophe. And
Mhm.
so, those things happen, but, you got to, just make adjustments and, have to find another manufacturer. And we had like pre-order sales and, it was delayed, like 4 months because I had to find another manufacturer to produce our product. So, I mean, so those things happen. So you just have to be adaptable and flexible and, always keep your vision and goals in mind that you want to accomplish because, things are going to happen, but you just got to, persevere and have some resilience. And once you do that and you start kind of finding your groove and, things start, flowing, then you're like, okay, now I found, like my sweet spot. But until then, it may be a little rough because I mean, you're doing something new. You're doing something revolutionary. You're doing something that you probably have never done before. And obviously, if it was easy, everyone would do it. So, you just have to just say, give yourself some grace and say, okay, well, all right, well, this didn't work out how I wanted to. Let me not, give up and let me just keep moving forward.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. So being adaptive, being able to incorporate feedback and be resilient through challenges and obstacles you face early on, that is so, so important to be able to push forward and continue to grow and really launch your company and get your product out there, make an impact. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for emphasizing that to our listeners because early on, between having an idea and being able to actually get your product to the market, so much can happen, right? There's so much
Hmm.
in between. And so being able to persevere, as you said, and stay resilient throughout those challenges is something I think the audience today should really take away from our conversation. That's a really great point. So thank you so much
Hmm.
for that. And that story about the first presentation, presenting the product to the audience, stuff happens. And so being able to learn from that, like fail and fail fast, right? You saw that, okay, this partnership with our manufacturer, our first manufacturer is not going to work. We need to be quick on our feet. Let's change and,
Yeah.
see where we
Yeah,
get.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You got to be able to just move quickly, and adjust on the fly, because I started feeling bad because like people they had gave us money, gave us money
Mhm.
and I didn't have the product to give them. And the thing is, it's like your credibility is like everything, with your brand. Your credibility and reliability are important. And one thing that, I didn't want to do, I didn't want people to not have trust, in not just the product, but also in the business. Because as a startup, you're still, growing, kind of your customer base. People are finally, kind of associating, your face and your brand, with the product. And my thing is, you don't want to give the wrong impression or, create a pattern of, not people not being able to trust you and not having confidence in what you're delivering, what you say you're going to do. To me, that's one thing that I wanted to shy away from. So, you got to just kind of just think quickly, and you got to pray, and you got to say, Lord, I need some help because I don't know what I'm doing, and trust me, everything always works out.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Being able to maintain your credibility, being able to strengthen and really keep the trust that you build with your audience, and not just your audience, but the people's whose
Hmm.
lives you intend to change and better and improve their quality of life. Like that's so important. So thank you for underscoring that. And to talk a little bit more about making an impact through entrepreneurship, what do you think is the best way for students and those who are just starting out on their entrepreneurial journey to build a network of mentors and supporters, even that can help them find the resources they need to get their ideas out there and just and grow and start scaling from the ground up and really just make an impact.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to me, the biggest thing is you got to have like social skills. I mean, the reason that we're even able to have like this discussion today because, we have social skills, we introduce ourselves to each other, we hit it off, we talk. So what do you do? Oh, Rose, oh, I have like a radio show. I like, what? Oh, that's crazy. So it's like you people, at this time and age, they just want to, text or, send emails, but it's like you really have to kind of get out of your comfort zone sometimes and, network with people and, communicate with people and socialize. So I just had a meeting with one lady today and, she's like, "Hey, I met several medical professionals, that can, utilize, ear acoustics. And so I want to introduce you to them." And she was at a conference and, it's really hard to navigate engagement with government agencies or even just industry organizations or companies without having a relationship with someone.
Mm.
If you call McDonald's and say, hey, I'm looking for a job, they'll say, hey, fill out this application and blah blah blah. But if your uncle or one of your friends works at McDonald's, then you just contact your buddy and say, hey man, can you give me a job? And they'll be like, oh yeah, like I'm standing next to the manager. They said come in on Monday. So there's a whole, process that you can skip, and there are things that you can bypass by just having a relationship and being able to network with people. When they say it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. You still have to know something, but
Mm.
it's much easier to get your foot in the door with an agency or ask for, mentoring and assistance with anything if you have a relationship with people. So, people like college students, or even as adults, myself, you gotta just get out there, you gotta network with people, you gotta, socialize with people, and you gotta have some interpersonal skills because I just can't, talk to Rose and say, hey Rose, hey, I'm Justin. I created this headphone. You're probably like, okay, that's cool, but yeah, like, can you like tell me a little bit about yourself first? Do you like I like football, Rose? I'm sure you like shopping, hanging out with friends. You got to be able to kind of break those barriers so people, tend to feel comfortable and they kind of like, can kind of put their guard down and, have more of a conversation and not just it be about, hey, I need to get this from you or how can you help me? But it's, how can we, establish some rapport? And then once that rapport is established, then you can say, hey, well, this is what I, do, these are some of my goals and ambitions, but you gotta be able to break those communication barriers.
Absolutely. Yes. And I'm really happy you shared the story about how we met because yes, we met at LA Tech Week, at the bridge in El Segundo. And that was we were networking, right? So you're absolutely right. But that all started with the conversation, just a handshake and
Yeah,
introducing
that's
yourself.
it.
That's all it takes. And
Yeah,
to
that's
get
it.
yeah, to right, to establish that first connection, take initiative, and then from there build a relationship long term and just really aim to, as you mentioned, it's not just something that's transactional, right? It's something
Right.
that's a real relationship you build, a genuine conversation you have. And from there, that's how you can build meaningful mentorship and
Hmm.
collaboration relationships. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think as college students who are always seeking networking opportunities, it's important to understand the impact that that can have going forward as a means of finding mentorship and support for their future projects and career goals. So thank you so much for that.
Hmm.
And something I want to dig a little deeper into is when you're building something with such a big impact and potential for, um, you know, changing people's lives as you have. Building an assistive technology company, developing something that's, as you mentioned, has never been done before to help those in need. When you have such a big vision, what advice do you have for students who maybe feel some doubt in the beginning or even imposter syndrome when it comes to building something with such a big impact, right? Could you speak directly to the listener today and just break down what advice you have for them?
Man, like that's like a really good question. I mean, because I like to be honest, I ask myself that a lot too, as because I'm doing something now with my life that I didn't really even go to school for, Like I have like an MBA and but you know, some of those things that they teach you in the classroom, don't necessarily translate into, what you're doing, on a day-to-day basis. I mean, that's a really good question. I'll just, it goes back to like my prayer because, I prayed and I asked the Lord, I said, I really want financial independence because I was really kind of going through some challenges, with like work and just being frustrated about, well, you got to do this, you got to go in for that, and we don't want you doing this, we want you doing that, and I was like, man, I'm like tired of doing this, type of thing. And then when God opens up different doors for you, sometimes you may feel like you may not be like the perfect person for it, or you may say, man, like I'm just like a regular kid from, from around the neighborhood. I don't think that I'm, worthy enough to do something, as cool as this. But to me, if God didn't want you to do it, he wouldn't, give you those ideas. So for any of the students, I would just say, if God blesses you with an amazing idea or a creative, skill or solution, it's like just go for it. I mean, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? I mean, you may obviously, spend some money, obviously on something, but in the end, if it doesn't work, like you actually tried it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
like you actually tried because there are so many people that have ideas and they don't even apply themselves or put forth the effort or even consider, you know, like let me just try this thing and like see how it goes, but once you apply yourself, and you're not going to have all of the answers, to how to navigate the process, but that's why you network and you socialize and you look things up, and you go to different events and you just try to create different exposure opportunities, and then you look up and it's like, oh wow, I didn't even know that I would even be here. But you when you as you're going through that process, it's not like step A, do this, step B, do this. To me, that's why faith and prayer is really important, because when you kind of doubt yourself, and you have some hesitancy on moving forward, God, he'll give you the strength to like keep moving on. So my advice is to, just go for it. You never know who you might like. Rose, I was in the Washington Post. I was in like the Baltimore Times, Annapolis Times. I'm doing like cool interviews like with you right now. It's
Mhm.
like I've been doing a whole bunch of cool stuff that I never even thought that I would even be doing. I'm like, this is why you get up in the morning, to do stuff like this, not to go sit in traffic for like an hour and go sit at a desk. To me, this is like motivating, this is like
That's right.
inspiring, talking to people and giving them like hope and motivation and inspiration. To me, like this is how your job should be. You should be like excited. So I'm just thankful that I'm able to do this. But if I would never, try to put myself out there, then I wouldn't even know like what this felt like. So I would just tell them to just go for it, man, and don't even look back.
Yes. Yes, definitely. And thank you so much for sharing that with listeners because you're absolutely right. All it takes is having the courage to just put yourself out there and try. You don't need to know the how yet. You don't need to have everything figured out, every step about how you're going to go from idea to making this big impact. And like you said, just being incredibly successful. But as long as you have your why, you have your motivation, and you have, you know, in your mind's eye, the reason, you know,
Hmm.
why you're going to do this, why you need to make it happen. Like that's all that matters and that will get you through. And if you just have the courage to take that leap and, just go full speed ahead and really try your best to develop your idea, go out there and network and build connections and do the research and, just push and keep learning and growing, you'll be surprised to find, as you said, where you end up, further down the road, a couple years ahead. And
Oh
that's
my
just
God.
fantastic. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like I'm excited just thinking about it. But I mean, even you have your own company, you have your own business. Cause I know I know it's like we talk to people and people, they say, well, how do I create a business? It's like you're just following your passion, and then you just have to try to find ways to like monetize it. But I mean, but it's like when you're doing something that you enjoy, is like they say it's not really work, it's like, you're investing your time in something that's helping change people's lives. I know your show, you got like thousands of followers and thousands of viewers. People are going to look at your show and they're going to be like, man, like Rose, she's getting like some real like awesome like interviews, and you probably are thinking like, man, like I'm just, I'm trying to figure out who I'm gonna invite next. So
Mhm.
what people think about what you're doing, and then your own perspective of what you're doing is like night and day. People, they'll say, man, Rose is like a superstar. You're probably just thinking like, man, all right, who am I gonna invite next to my show? So
Yeah.
yeah, so I
Mhm.
would definitely say, tell people just to go for it.
Absolutely. And thank you for emphasizing that because you're right. There is a big difference between what other people perceive and how they see where you are and they look at you, at this point in time they say, hey, like, oh, that person's probably really successful. This person's this and that. And that's why they are where they are today. But no, there's a process behind that. There's been work behind that. And then
Yeah,
you as the person doing all this work, you're putting your head down and you're just going. You're
yeah,
putting
yeah,
reps to keep going even further, right? Keep climbing even higher. So
yeah,
thank you so much for emphasizing that because that is like that's what it takes. It's just your drive, your motivation, and to keep going forward, keep doing another episode, keep launching another product, improving someone else's life. So yes, 100% yes. Thank you. And what I want to talk about next is how you are inspiring the next generation and give you the opportunity to touch a little bit about your film that you recently produced, Turning Point. I want to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about that and, for everyone listening to our conversation today, how might your film speak to them when it comes to chasing something that's really important to you, building a future that you really see for yourself? What words do you have for our audience?
yeah, sure. So I wrote the script and like directed, this film, titled Turning Point. Is gonna be on like television like really soon. I think like by Thanksgiving, it'll be on streaming platforms like Tubi, Swag TV, and I think and a few other networks. But I mean, like I said, I'm doing stuff right now, Rose, that I never thought that I would be doing before. So I'm just like, blessed to even be talking about this stuff. But once again, it goes back to that prayer I had about, financial independence. And, God would give me these like dreams and visions, and I mean, then it's like, what do I do with this stuff? And when I started with the script and I had to ask people and say, hey, like, can you help me with this? What am I going down the right path? Is this the right thing? They say, oh no, you need to do this and do that and go talk to this person over there. And eventually we had a script, had a production team, and like had an amazing cast. And the film, it's about, a young man overcoming adversity, through his faith in God. And, in the film, he has a lot of challenges and circumstances and things that he encounters, in his life. He's, kind of like in high school, transitioning into college. And, he's just trying to navigate and figure out, what his purpose is. And, his faith in God and prayer kind of help him overcome those challenges and help get his life on the right track. And the story, I mean, it's very relatable because I know we can all attest to facing different circumstances, whether it's losing a job or losing a family member or not scoring as high on an exam or test, that you may want to. But just because you face challenges, it doesn't mean that, that your race is over. So
Mm.
this story is just a testament of, people having the motivation and the fortitude and resilience to bounce back even though they face challenges and circumstances and hardship. And I mean, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen with this movie. It's like we had like the movie, we had it actually showing in like the movie theater. Like the first show we had was like 237 people, and it was sold out, and the screen was like an 80-foot screen, and it was like 50 feet tall. And I'm like looking at this, I'm like nervous, and like I'm like, I hope people like it. And it was just like a crazy red carpet experience. And we even had like three sold out shows after that. So the response from everyone that's been viewing it is like, man, this is a really good project. And then opportunities are opening up to partner with the county. They want to do a screening for the youth program. So it's like you never know how following your dreams can open up different avenues and opportunities, and just allow people's lives to just be touched and to be changed. And I mean, when you're in it, you don't really think about it that way. You're just trying to focus on it and get it done. But sometimes you got to take a step back and kind of like reflect and just like tell the Lord, like, thank you, God, for like helping me do this, because you really are making an impact. And sometimes you don't see it immediately, but over time, you'll really see like the impact, and people will be like, man, like, man, I had somebody, they came to me one day, and they were like crying, and they gave me a hug. They were like, thank you so much. And I'm like, what did I do? I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But that just shows you, I mean, you never know like the impression and the impact that you could, make on people when you're just following your purpose and you're just walking in the destiny that God has for you. And so, that's critical. I mean, when you do that, you'll never go wrong.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Wow. Thank you so much. What you just said there was gold. And I think something I really want to go back to and just say one more time to make sure I'm doing my job in the audience is really taking away what you said here is even though you face challenges, it doesn't mean your race is over. And I really, really want to highlight the power in those words because it's so true, right? Even though you have challenges, you keep going in your mission, right? You have this goal, you're going to keep going forward, keep pushing. And that's just so profound because as you go forward, you'll one day look up, as you said, you're in it, you're doing the work, but one day you just look up and you realize, hey, how did I get here? Look at what I've
Mm-hmm.
done. Look at what I've built. Look at all the lives I've impacted. And that's what it's all about, right? Continue to follow through on your mission, your goal, whatever it is, despite the challenges, and just really have the power to have the courage to believe in yourself, to bet on yourself, and to make it happen. And so the race is not over for you, not even close. You're just getting started, Justin. And
Oh
I'm
yeah, we're like we're
so
just
excited.
warming up. We're just
Absolutely.
like we're just stretching. We about to
Yeah.
run this, run the, and that's the thing. I think people think that a lot of these things, happen, overnight when we go back to the point about, people seeing the final, the final outcome. And they say,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, like, oh, like this person they've done, look at this, they're like successful and blah, blah. But the thing is, people don't really see behind the scenes,
Mm-hmm.
all of the work and the effort and, the sleepless nights and the resources that are being paid out and the interviews and all of these things going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I say sometimes like everybody, people they want the red carpet, where you wear like a nice tuxedo or gown or dress or whatever. But it's like, but nobody wants to, you know, put in the hard work and,
Mm-hmm.
do the things behind the scenes that get you to that red carpet. So, these things don't come, easily. It's hard work. There have been times where I've asked, submitted for grants, filling out a number of grant applications, putting in for different film festivals. And a lot of times you get rejected. People are like, nah, we moved on. When you get that letter, they say, thanks for applying, but unfortunately, you're like, oh, okay, I don't even want to see this no more. You're like, okay, I'm throwing that in the trash. I'm not
Yeah.
even reading anymore. But then,
Yeah.
sometimes you gotta invest, like you said earlier, you gotta invest in yourself. If it's your dream or something you want to do, you've got to put your resources, to manifest what you want. It's like people don't really like to put the work and the effort and the time into doing something. They just kind of like the glitz and the glamour, but that's what it really takes, at the end of the day. It's hard work, it's paying for things, on your own, financing things on your own. Obviously, I've put in for grants and, different opportunities, but sometimes you don't get them, So what do you do? Do you not move forward with your dream? It's like you still have to move forward. And I just want to, encourage the audience and just let everyone know that you don't always have have to have like $1 million or a whole lot of money for things to get started. I mean, when you think about it, those major companies, it always starts off small. You always have small beginnings. It's like you may not have $100,000 for your company, but if you have $10 to invest or even like $1, I mean, you got to start from somewhere. And then as you continue to grow and take time, to mature things and, grow your company and everything, then you'll start, accumulating more revenue and, and be able to do more things. But, don't allow, not having the money or the resources to prevent you, from pursuing your dreams. Because people, they say, oh, well, I don't have the money right now. Well, you don't need the money to kind of come up with the name for your company. You don't need the money to come up with the ideas or to come up with the business plan or to come up with, who the audience is that you want to target. To me, sometimes people use that as an excuse, but when you're really serious about what you're trying to do, you never allow money to be a hindrance or distraction from trying to accomplish your dreams and goals.
Yes. Wow, absolutely. And for students especially listening to this, that's so so important to hear and know and just really understand going forward. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. That if you really believe, if you have a vision and you really believe in what you want to do, nothing's going to stop you. Money's not going to stop you. Any imagined obstacles you have or perceived challenges, it's not going to be enough to prevent you from chasing after what you want to do, building what you want to build. So thank you so much, Justin. That was really, really important for our listeners to hear. And I think that is a great way to wrap up our conversation today. You've shared so much valuable insight into your own career journey and your experience, and thank you so much for sharing a window into your insight today.
Yeah, Rose, like you're such an amazing host. Like I'm looking forward seeing you on like television real soon or like some I don't know, like some like social media following with like 1 million followers and stuff. You're gonna be like the influence. You're gonna be like one of my influencer friends. I'll be like, let me call Rose. Hey, Rose, put on this headset and send it to like your 10 million subscribers or something. Yeah. So I just wanted to say like,
Thank
just thank you. I feel honored and I really appreciate you, helping me, in this endeavor. So thanks so much.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Justin, for everything. And I really can't wait to see what you do next. And I wish you the best of luck with everything at Quantum Senses and beyond.
All right. Thanks, Rose.